Today we're reading and thinking about We Gather Together. Now please get lost by Diane DeGroat. Readers, some of you might recognize this character Gilbert from some of Mrs. DeGroat's other books with him in it. You know how he is. He always seems to have some kind of a little problem or get into some trouble of some sort. Now, I notice when I take a sneak peek of this book that there's a bus in the background. He's holding a pumpkin pie and he's wearing a funny looking hat. This makes me think about the background knowledge or schema that I have about those things. It makes me think about the holiday of Thanksgiving that's coming up this month in November. People in America celebrate Thanksgiving as a way to honor the first people to settle along the east coast of the United States. When they came over from England, it was after a long, hard journey, and the whole first year, many of them barely survived. And they celebrated with that feast that we now call Thanksgiving to kind of act like that and remember the time that they celebrated having survived that first hard winter. I bet when you see a name tag and a bus in the background, you're probably thinking, field trip. That's what I'm thinking too. I bet that Gilbert is going on a field trip with his class. Let's read to find out. Gilbert was so excited that he tossed and turned all night. Tomorrow his class was going on a field trip to Pilgrim Town, and Gilbert kept thinking about how much fun it would be. Frank was going to be his buddy for the trip and promised to bring his checkers for the bus ride. Gilbert finally drifted off to sleep when... Bam! Something bopped him on the head. Gilbert woke with a start and fell off the bed. His sister Lola laughed and waved her doll around. "You have to get up," she said. "I am up," Gilbert said, but he was really down on the floor, stuck between the bed and the wall. Lola tried to bop him again. "Mom says you're late for school." Gilbert had never been late for school, but today he was tired and didn't want to get up. When Gilbert stomped into the kitchen, his socks didn't match, toothpaste was dribbling down his shirt, and his hair was sticking up in all the wrong places. "Oh dear," Mother said when she saw him. "It looks like you got up on the wrong side of the bed today." Now, readers, remember that's an expression that sometimes people say when they just mean that you kind of got up maybe and felt in a little bit of a bad, grumpy mood or something. She handed him his lunch bag as he hurried out the door. Gilbert had missed breakfast and his stomach growled all the way to school. Thumbs up if you're thinking he's already getting his day off to a rough start and wondering if it's going to get better or worse. When he got to his classroom, Mrs. Bird had already marked him absent. She erased the X next to his name and said, "You should be thankful that we didn't leave without you, Gilbert." Gilbert wasn't so thankful when he saw that everyone had already picked their partners for the trip. The only person left without a buddy was Philip. Philip was always the last one to get picked for anything. He couldn't catch a ball or run fast. He was also a big tattletale, and now he was Gilbert's buddy. Stop and think about what Gilbert is probably thinking and feeling right now. And then stop and think, what if you were Philip and you were always the last one picked for everything? How would you feel? When the bus started down the road, Gilbert looked around. Frank and Kenny were playing checkers. Patty and Margaret played Travel Battleship. Louis and Sam read a comic book. Gilbert and Philip just sat. Gilbert's stomach growled again. He opened up his lunch bag, but Philip said, "I'm telling the teacher that you're eating on the bus." Gilbert closed the bag. Finally, Mrs. Bird said, "Now, class, we're almost there. At Pilgrim Town, we'll see how the early settlers lived. They were thankful that they got through a hard winter and celebrated their first harvest with a Thanksgiving feast. During our visit today, I want you to think about all the things that you can be thankful for." Hey, that reminds me of our Thankful Thursdays. Patty raised her hand and said, "I'm thankful that no one threw up on the bus." Lewis shouted, "I'm thankful that we didn't have to do spelling today." Everyone laughed, except Mrs. Bird and Philip, who was the best speller in the class. Gilbert just slouched in his seat and said, "I'm thankful that we're almost there." Readers, look at this word, laughed. That's one of those words that just needs to be a snap word for me. I see it all the time in books, and so I made it one of my own personal snap words because every time I tried to sound it out, it never came out right. Look at these two words. I could use the snap word "and" to quickly read that word "hand." I did it so quickly in my mind, my reading just continued to sound smooth like talking. And look at this contraction, like we talked about last week. We're. It's what means we are almost there. But I had to read it the way the author wrote it and know that when you combine the words, it says we're. When the bus pulled into the parking lot, Mrs. Bird said, "Remember to stay with your buddy at all times so no one will get lost." 2 by 2, they walked through the village where people in costumes talked about how the Pilgrims lived. As they headed toward the blacksmith's shop, Gilbert ran to catch up with Frank and Kenny. Philip ran after him, calling, "Hey, wait for me." Frank said, "Too bad we can't be triple buddies, Gilbert, but you have to stay with Philip." When Philip caught up, he said, "Don't walk so fast, Gilbert. Mrs. Bird wants us to stick together." So Gilbert walked really, really slowly. Philip pulled at his sleeve and said, "Hurry up, Gilbert." Now think to yourself, why did Gilbert do that and walk so slowly when Philip asked him not to go so fast? At the hay barn, Gilbert hid behind a group of older kids, but Philip found him. "Stop it, Gilbert," he whined. "I'm telling Miss Bird that you're fooling around." "You're a big tattletale," Gilbert said. "Why don't you just get lost?" "I'm telling Miss Bird that you called me a tattletale," Philip said. On the way to the picnic area, Gilbert slipped into the restroom when Philip wasn't looking and locked the door behind him. Now Philip would never find him. Now think to yourself about what's going on between these two characters. Are they each treating each other the right way? Gilbert waited a few minutes, then went to unlock the door. The lock wouldn't turn. He tried again, but it was stuck. He banged on the door, yelling, "Hey, Philip, I'm in here." Philip didn't answer. Gilbert banged on the door again. "Is anyone out there?" he shouted. No one answered. Now think to yourself, how is Gilbert feeling now? If you thought to yourself that Gilbert was probably feeling scared and worried about how was he going to get out of that restroom and maybe a little sorry for how he had treated Philip, then I think you made a great prediction. Uh-oh, Gilbert thought. If Philip didn't see him go into the bathroom, no one would know he was in there. Or worse, Philip might not even tell anyone that Gilbert was missing. That's what Gilbert would do if he were Philip. The class might leave without him, and Gilbert would have to spend the whole night there, alone, in the bathroom, in the dark. This author is really good at using the ellipses. When she wrote alone, ... in the bathroom, ... in the dark, I knew to read it with a little bit of drama. suddenly the doorknob jiggled. "Is somebody there?" Gilbert shouted. It was Philip. "Gilbert," he said, "I've been looking all over for you." "I can't get out," Gilbert said. "The lock's stuck." "Hold on," Philip said. "I'll get help." After a few minutes, a guide came with the key. When Gilbert finally got out, he saw Philip, but not the rest of his class. "Uh-oh," he cried. "We lost our class." The guide said, "Then we'd better check the lost and found." As they walked to the visitors' center, Gilbert knew he was going to be in big trouble, and Philip was too, all because of him. Gilbert waited anxiously with Philip at the lost child corner until the class appeared. But Mrs. Bird wasn't mad. She said, "There you are. I'm so glad we found you." Louis wasn't so glad. He said, "We could have been eating lunch already, but we had to come looking for you and Philip." Gilbert said, "It's not Philip's fault. I was hiding from him and got locked in the restroom, but he found me and got help." Patty said, "Oh, Gilbert, you weren't being a very good buddy." And Frank said, "I'm glad Gilbert wasn't my buddy." But Mrs. Bird said, "Let's just be happy that we are all safely here together." To celebrate, she brought some pies and pilgrim hats and led the class outside to a picnic table. When they were all seated, she said, "Tomorrow is Thanksgiving Day. What are some of the things we should be thankful for?" "Pumpkin pie," Louis said, helping himself to a piece. "Thanks for getting lost, Gilbert." Patty said, "I'm thankful that we don't have to live like the Pilgrims did. They didn't have TV." "Or comic books," Sam added. They went around the table. When it was Gilbert's turn, he thought for a minute, then said, "I'm thankful that I didn't have to spend Thanksgiving locked in a bathroom. Thanks, Philip." Everyone shouted, "Yay, Philip!" Philip turned red and said, "That's what buddies are for." On the walk back to the bus, Gilbert stayed close to Philip, very close. On the bus, Gilbert borrowed Frank's checkers, and he and Philip played 5 games. Philip won every time. Happy Thanksgiving!